Hi, my name is Alan Court. I am the owner of the Kiddywinkles Early Learning Centres in New Zealand. Welcome to our podcast, Building Kids for Greatness, where we have spoken to some wonderful people about their experiences in raising children. I've had the pleasure of speaking with one of New Zealand's TV celebrities and icon with young children, Susie Cato. I've had the privilege of speaking with Hollywood A-lister Vince Vaughn on his bringing up of children, and recently we spoke with the Minister of Education, the Honourable Erica Stanford. And today I'm delighted to have another celebrity here, a lady who beams into your rooms around New Zealand many nights a week on the TV1 6 o'clock news, Melissa Stokes. A very warm welcome, Melissa.
Thank you very much, Alan. I hope I can live up to the expectations of your other guests. It's a great guest list.
I'm sure you will. What I'd like to start with, Melissa, you've had a lot of experience in journalism and news reading, and you've been around the world and traveled the world, and you see a lot of different types of news, whether it's war-ravaged countries, whether it's famine, whether there's inspirational stories or heartbreaking moments. How has all that shaped how you show up as a mum?
I think it just means to be there, I think, is the biggest thing I'd take away from it. Is that so many people, as we see all the time at the minute, are really suffering. And I think for me, it just means that I need to show up for the kids when they need me, try to be there as much as possible, but also that it's really good for my kids to see me working, because they really know that I place importance on my work, that I really love working, and I hope that it helps them in the future find something that they feel as good about. So yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I think it's that kind of thing that really makes me realize how it is really precious, even though it is a cliche, but to be a parent is precious, and there's some people that don't get to maybe parent how they would like because of the circumstances they are in. So I think showing up is the best way to do that for me.
And I think one of the things with what you are exposed to, as all people listening to the news and social media, is the atrocities around the world, and it's almost we're almost very fortunate to be living in a country where we can shield our children and protect our children from a lot of those things, but still acknowledging that they need to know what's happening in the world, because it's a reality of it all.
Yes.
Do you parent any differently from what you've seen? I mean, you say one thing is to be seen. Is there any particular thing that makes you parent differently?
Differently to others, or?
No, differently to what you might not have done had you not had that exposure.
Oh, I'm not sure. It's really hard to say, but yeah, I think I try to inform my kids, which probably they don't enjoy sometimes. I don't think my children are sheltered from the news, because we live in a household. My husband's a cameraman, so we're very involved in what's happening, and therefore my kids are quite involved in discussions about what is happening in the world. I'm not sure if everybody would. I think that probably comes with having those robust discussions in a newsroom, is that we've kind of brought that home, and I'm not necessarily sure I would have done that had I not been in the news.
Yeah.
And I kind of do believe in, talking to my kids quite frankly about the situation in the world, which, if I wasn't in this vocation, I probably wouldn't be doing that either.
Yep, perfect. And you have spoken quite openly about parenting a child with ADHD. This would be very interesting and very relevant to a lot of our parents and a lot of our listeners. What has helped you bring out the best with your son on a day-to-day basis, understanding the ADHD?
It's been a really difficult time, as anybody will know with a neurodivergent child, is that things go swimmingly until they don't, and then you kind of have to recalibrate and find the next best way forward. And there's definitely been a lot of that in our family, but not sure if there's one best thing, but I feel very fortunate that I've always been able to seek help when we've needed the help. And I know not everybody's in that situation, but we've always had a very good kind of list of people to call to work out what we should do next. And that started with a really great pediatrician and also a great occupational therapist. But then I think along the way, it's again just kind of talking to him about how he feels about things. And it's not necessarily, we don't have deep discussions about his ADHD diagnosis. In fact, he doesn't really have much interest in that. But one of the real, I think, tricks I learned that I think is good for parents when he was younger was that somebody told me to talk to him about his cups and how full his cups were. And I just thought that was a really great way of getting him to talk about his feelings without really knowing it and finding language that suited him. And so we would draw like cups, and he'd have a happy cup and a sad cup or an angry cup, and he'd fill into the level of that he was. And I really liked that. And every now and again, I will still say to him, "How's your happy cup?" So, because
it's really
so
good because it's very
yeah.
very relatable, and I mean that's something you can relate visually as well.
Yes, yeah. So I thought that was one of the best things I think I had when he was younger, to understand his emotions.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. As somebody in the public eye, as you are, you'd probably recognise as you walk around places.
Oh, not
How
really.
do you, how do you decide what to share and what not to share, whether it's private or public, when it comes to your family?
I think that has evolved for me over time, and I definitely don't use social media that much. That hasn't been a conscious decision. It's more been, it just doesn't really fit in with how I live. I always forget to take the photos, so it just doesn't really occur to me to do that. I think when the kids were younger, I put them on social media, on Instagram. I probably wouldn't necessarily do that now. Yeah, I've got varying reasons for that, but they're a bit older now. They're 13 and 11. I think it's their choice now. And so, yeah. And in terms of, sometimes I worry about sharing things about one of their ADHD, but then I think it can be really helpful to other people. So I think you've got to make a choice based on, I guess, the greater good in some respects about what I share. I don't mind sharing things that might help others, but I think just the general day-to-day stuff isn't really for me.
And I think you touched on something that's really important, is being able to share with things like the ADHD, what you've found helps other people. And I think that's really fantastic, because a lot of things also, and people are getting more and more conscious of this, even with the evolution of AI, is not to be exposing children or putting photos up on the internet, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram and everything else. So there is certainly that conscious element that's starting to come in as to what is going to happen with AI in the future, and how do we protect our children from that.
Of course, and yeah, and as I say, I sometimes get worried about being not outspoken, but talking about things like the ADHD, because I worry how that might affect things later on in life. But then I think things are changing so much in that space as well, on almost kind of a yearly basis, that I think those kind of diagnoses aren't really the big deal that they would have been even 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep. And as there is the understanding of it and everything else, people become more accepting, and it's just
Yes.
another thing. And
Yep.
it's how we then navigate our way with children through that, and how they navigate for themselves. So
Yeah.
I think what you share is fantastic. Melissa, if you think back to your own childhood, were there any values or life lessons that really stuck with you?
Well, it's funny because I'm living with my dad at the moment, because so all four of us are in with my dad, so it's quite funny. Um, Life lessons. I don't know. I think my parents really instilled in me that I never really remember them kind of telling me I couldn't do anything, which but they worked hard, which has always made us work hard, I think. Yeah.
Mm.
Simple things. We always ate dinner around the table. We were always expected to do certain things. Um, yeah, I just think we had a very idyllic childhood, really. I grew up in Tauranga in the Bay of Plenty. Um, we were real kids. We would disappear from the house on the weekends from 9 in the morning and kind of
Yeah,
re-emerge at
the way we used to do that, yes.
yeah, when the sun was setting. And I definitely think I feel sometimes it's a bit harder in Auckland, but we live in a really lovely suburb that has enabled my kids to do that. And I really
Mm.
love seeing that independence, like they'll bike everywhere. And I really think that's such a great part of growing up. So that's probably the one thing of their parenting that I really love, is that kind of free, I hate that, but that free range kind of,
Yep.
just
And
getting
that
out
that
there and
is that
about.
is by the sounds of things, that's what you've instilled in your children now.
Oh, I'm trying. I'm trying. It makes it a bit harder with phones and iPads and things, but yeah,
I
they have
know.
to get out there. Yeah.
I know. I remember growing up. I mean, some of the values that I was very strong on, and we're always on about relationships. So I learned at an early age the importance of relationships and building relationships of empathy. And then the other thing that was really strong that I've instilled or tried to instill in our children is the importance of persistence, and it's like you referred to hard work. My dad always used to say to me, bite off more than you can chew and chew it. So
It's good one, yeah.
basically, go flat out for it. And because you got to prepare, I think, children for the real world. And the real world is just not sitting back and you just
Yeah.
cruise.
Yeah. And I would say one of my big things of parenting, and my kids would say, is their manners. I'm very, very
Yeah.
strict about looking people in the eye, saying hello. You've got to say thank you. I remember
Yeah.
even when they were younger, they'd come in and their first back from a friend's, and they'd yell out, "Yes, we said thank you," because they've got
They knew they're
manners.
going to be asked
Yeah,
otherwise.
they knew they were going to be asked. Yeah, so and I'm very hot on that kind of thing. You've got to front up, look at a person, and yeah.
Yes. No, and I think they are. I mean, there's some of the things that we try and instill in all our children through our centres, is the importance of manners. And, our children will, at the end of their meal, they will put their plates away.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
because it's what we try to instill is at the centres is what we expect them to be doing at home as well, in home life.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, balancing, we've touched on this very briefly, but balancing life with being a full-time mum and being a full-time, working as well. So it's life can be very, very busy and everything going at 1,000,000 miles per hour. How do you stay present when you are with your children?
I think they're at a really great age now where, I remember reading, or like Celia Lashley, who you would know, watching her or reading her books about boys in particular. Like, I love, probably one of my favorite things has been in the car with my kids, because they're not allowed on their devices in the car.
Yeah.
It's that whole thing of sitting side by side with a son and not having to look them in the eye and just
Yeah.
talking to them. And I love
It's a
that.
captured audience there. So
Yeah. And, when they reach that 13, 11-year-olds that I've got, you're in the car a lot, traveling around for sport. So we get a lot of that time, which I just, I really, really adore with them. So, yeah, that's one way, I guess. I'm not going to lie, I don't think you can be present all of the time.
no,
But yeah, I love that time in the car, or just, watching them play sports, but yeah, we definitely have great times in the car together.
it's a perfect time for it. I did go and see Celia Lashley once, and it was very inspiring, given that we've got 3 boys as well,
Yes, well,
and boys' brains don't seem to develop quite as well.
No, and that's all kind of fascinating, very fascinating things, to me. So, I think she's a great person to read.
Yes.
Yeah.
Looking back, how important do you think the early preschool years were with your children in setting a tone for a child's confidence and curiosity?
We were extremely fortunate with our children. We had a little crèche just down the road from us that they started at, but then they both went to a daycare, and it's one of those, as I'm sure you hear from people, a real feeling. We'd gone and looked at many, but as soon as I walked into this one, I knew it was for us.
Yep.
And I think my kids both still have friends from the daycare that they went to. So I've really loved that about it. They, my kids went to somewhere very kind. They did a lot outside, a lot of learning, very kind of child-led. And I think it's really set them up in terms of, very confident in what they're doing, both very ready to go to school at the end of it because they've been primed for the journey ahead, so to speak. Yeah.
You do notice, and we notice children who haven't been through early learning in terms of social skills. There's the social skills that they pick up being with children their own age, of actually being in an environment where they are helped and guided, as well as being child-led, which our philosophy is based on child-led play. But it's the thing that really stands out for me is the social skills that they develop, and then being ready for school. And that transition to school is so important. And we hear a lot of centres around New Zealand comment that children are not ready. They don't know how to do the basic things like pack their bag, write their name and everything else. And that is so important in those early years. And you would not get that if you didn't go through an early learning program.
Right. And it's those little routines, isn't it, that they're taught, like you're saying, they have to pack up after their lunch, or just even kind of putting their stuff in their cubby hole and getting that back at the end of the day. Yeah, it's just all little routines that I think really build on a successful transition later on.
And then we encourage them to take those skills, learning skills, back home into the household as well. So it doesn't finish. So there's no excuse then when the children get home that they don't put their things away. Just a last question, because I know you're very busy. A lot of parents wonder what happens in those first few years, whether they really matter long term. And from your experience, what are the little things in early learning? We've touched on a couple of things, but like routines or social play or story time that you think have a lasting impact?
I think definitely the reading or being read to, and kind of that mat time of learning different waiata or songs and things like that they will carry through. I just think, as you said, going somewhere socially and interacting with kids their own age, learning that it's not always going to go their way, having spills or knocks in a place of safety. For one of my kids, it was, I think, learning that I or my husband was always going to come back and get them, that they weren't going to be left.
That's a huge thing. That's a huge thing.
Yeah. So that trust that they could go to this place for a few hours and I would come back, or Dave would come back, that was a really big thing for one of ours. And and I think that definitely helped them. Helps them even now. We still say, don't forget, I'll always come back. So, I think those kind of things, they are the years that set them up for the rest of the time, isn't it, really? Yeah.
Melissa, you have provided some wonderful little anecdotes and stories that a lot of our listeners and families and parents will be able to relate to. And it doesn't matter what people do, whether they are an accountant, a builder, a lawyer. We all go through the same things. We're all on this journey. There's no, it's a real deal. There's no practice run.
Yeah, parenthood is a great equalizer, isn't it?
It certainly is,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate the time you've taken, and I will look forward to sharing this with our family and friends. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Ka kite.
Ka kite.